Hey everyone, how's it going? Today I'm going to be showing you probably what's the most impactful Python project you could do this year. In this short amount of time, if you get through it, what you're going to end up with is a URL that you can share with yourself, with a colleague, with potential employers, and it's going to be a full-on chatbot that you've made yourself. You can customize. You can drop down and select any AI model to chat with. And you can also pick any of the free models. So there's a ton of free models that you can pick from. And if you do that, you can probably save a lot of money on AI chatbots. So we'll dive straight into this in the video today, and you can be an absolute beginner to do it. I'll be jumping step by step to show you exactly how to make it. So let's get into it. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to open up my browser here. I have Python open, and I'm going to Google Colab. And Google Colab is a service that allows you by Google for free to run Python code. So this is what we're going to be using for this tutorial. I'm going to go to Google Colab and I'm going to create a new notebook. That's it. It's just like Google Colab you can think of is like Google Docs or Word, but for code. So here you see I'm making the screen a bit bigger. All I'm going to write is my first AI chatbot. And this is going to be a really cool project, so just stick around. I'm going to be going over every single specific concept in Python, and it might get advanced in certain places, but if you just follow along with me, you're going to get a very cool outcome. So again, I say, if you follow along with this tutorial, you're going to get out a very cool outcome, which is your own AI chatbot, and one that you can select any model. You don't just have to use the ones that you see, but you can use any possible models. I'm going to be using a specific AI lab called Mistral's AI models. So the first things first is I'm going to teach you is these are called cells. So if I want to write more code, I can click this code button, and these are pieces of these are code cells that allow me to run things. So if I write 1 + 1 here and I run this Python cell, it's going to take a little bit to connect, but it'll give me 2. So this is how I run my Python code. The first thing I'm going to show you is imports. So these are things that instead of writing all of the code from scratch, we're going to import code that other people wrote so we can build on top of it. Again, it's going to be hard to build everything from scratch. We want to stand on the shoulders of giants and use the code that other people used. So the first thing I'm going to show you is a comment. A comment in Python starts with a hashtag, much like it does on X or Twitter. And this just means that anything I write here won't run. So I write, here is my comment. If I run this, nothing will happen. And that's because it does exactly what I said. It is just a comment here. So I know as a developer what I'm writing, but it doesn't get executed. So the first thing I'm going to show you here is imports. An import is basically something that you import from, so here is just the code autocomplete, ignore this, but it can help you with some development. But I'm going to import code packages that we can use. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to import. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to write !PIP or pip. You can ignore this auto-completion. This is just coding auto-completion that helps you fill things in, but it's not what I actually want to do here. So what is pip? Pip is the Python package installer. This is what I use to download other people's code so that I can use it. So if I write !pip install, that's what I use to install packages. And I'm going to write Gradio, and Gradio is a service that allows us to do websites very easily. So it's going to do a very nice looking website for us automatically for our chatbot. Then if I want to specify a specific version to use, I can do ==, and then I can specify a specific version of Gradio because there's going to be multiple versions. So I'll write 4.44.0. Now there's one more package that I want to install. I'm going to write requests. And requests is to call other services. So I'll show you what we're going to use that for later. But if I write ==, I can then specify the version. So I can do 2.32.3, for example. Now, if I run this, it's going to install both of those packages. And as you can see, it's installing everything at the moment. So if I scroll down, you'll see that it's installed everything here, and that's pretty much it. Now let's create one more code block. And so if I do a code block here, you see that I've installed everything. I've written my comment, I've installed everything. Let's go to the second part, which is I've installed it, but I actually now have to make it usable in the code. So how do I actually use this Gradio thing that I've installed in the code? I'm going to write another comment, and I'm going to write here for number 2, make imports usable. And I do that by writing import Gradio, just like that. And like that, I can then call Gradio in different parts of our code. Import just means that anything that you've installed, you can then start using. And instead of writing Gradio every time, I want to make it a bit shorter. And so I can rename it as GR. So if I write as GR, it means that anytime that I call GR, it's going to use Gradio. And you'll see that in a second. It'll just save us a lot of time because I can just type in 2 letters. Next, I'm going to import requests. So if I press tab here, I'll auto-complete this, just like the suggestion. So that's how you can start to use AI to actually develop a little bit quicker. But I'm going to import requests, which is the second thing that we imported up here. So if I import requests like that, and the last thing I'm going to do is import JSON or JSON. And this is a specific import that's already installed in Python, but we're going to use, it's a specific format that we're going to use later. So that's it. You've already started learning how to import different codes, how to import other packages, how to use comments, and how to then use those imports. So there we go. I'm now going to do one new code block. And in this new code block, I'm going to do our third topic, which is variables. So in Python, a variable is a piece of, you can think of it like a unit, a container in the memory of a robot or the computer. So in this container, you can put whatever you want. You can put a number. So if I write a container, for example, I can declare a variable. And so this is called a variable when I declare this container. So I can say test 1, 2, 3. And I can make this equal to 1, 2, 3. So if I run this, you'll see nothing. But if I print it, and printing is how you see, hey, what is inside this container that I declared here? You can see it's 1, 2, 3. So if I change this to 1, 2, and I run it, it'll change to 1, 2. Test 1, 2, 3 is a container. So I can write anything. I can write hello. I can write and just put it here. So variables are just containers, and here we assign a specific value to them. So what I'm going to start off with is, for this AI chatbot, I want to start with a specific model. And so typically, for example, you can use underscores in the name. And so I'll write model name equals, and I'm going to pick a specific model. You can pick any, but I'm going to pick Mistral AI because I like the models they use, but you can equally pick any of the other ones: DeepSeek, open source models, Llama, OpenAI, anything. So I'm going to write Mistral AI / Mistral small. And this naming convention you can get out of the, and so this naming convention you can get specifically when you visit a website called Open Router. So if you type in Open Router into Google and click models, this is what service we use so that you can use any possible model. And if you click the copy button here, it will give you the ID of that model. So for example, this is this one for this Mistral model, but there's tons of different models that you can use. And if I sort by the top weekly models, you'll also see specific models from other companies as well. So here, I've just declared the model name. This is one of the ones that I'm going to be using, but you can choose to pick any specific model that you'll use. So now that I've declared that variable, you see that I've used quote marks. So what is these quote marks? Quote marks in Python indicate text, or what we call strings. You can also do directly numbers, like I showed before, where you write 1 or 2, where you can write something like true or false, and that's called a Boolean. But right now I'm doing a string, and this string is what you use to do text. So here I'll write an exclamation mark, which is a comment, it's just a note, and I write this is a string, which is a specific type of variable. So if I run this, it'll print exactly the text that I wrote here. But this is a value I'm going to use later because I'm going to be declaring this is the type of model that I want to use for the chatbot. Now we're going to declare a couple more variables. So I'm going to write API underscore key. An API key you can think of as a password, right? And we need an API key when we're working with OpenRouter. So you can go here into OpenRouter, and I'm not going to do this myself, but you can do this yourself. And you can click on keys, and you will have to pay a little bit if you want to use paid models. But what's cool is that you can also look at free models. So if I do the pricing from low to high, there's a bunch of free open source models that you can use. So if you create an API key and you choose one of the free models, you can basically power a free chatbot. So I suggest that you take a look at that, for example. So here, if I type in Mistral, I can use this model for free. So I'll actually go and I'll copy this model and I'll type it in here. So you should be able to use this for free. Here in API key, I'm just going to do a quote mark because actually I don't want to declare this in the code because it's a password. I want every user that uses my chatbot to bring their own API key, bring your own password. And last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write API underscore URL. This is going to be what we use to call OpenRouter, which provides us all of these models. So this is going to be a little bit complicated, but just follow along with me. I'm going to write HTTPS, which is basically like ://. This is the website URL or the API URL. And I'm going to write openrouter.ai/API/v1/chat/completion. And so this is the URL that we're going to call in order to access all of these different models over here that you can use. But what's kind of cool is that you can power this completely free if you choose a bunch of free models. So I'm now going to run this and it runs successfully. So what you've learned is so far imports, using those imports, and then variables, which are these containers that declare specific values that we want to declare in the code. Now for number 4, we're going to do a comment again, and I'm going to show you how to do functions. Functions are not just, so we've learned about variables, which is how do you do values. But what if you want to execute actions? You want to do 1 + 1, etc. For that, you use a function. And a function in Python starts with defining that function. So for defining, you use def, which is short for defining. So you define a function, and let's say we do addition. So add, and you do these brackets, and you can give arguments. So like, what is the input? Let's say that you take A and B, which you can take as input, and then you do colon, and then what a function gives out, you use return to give out something. And for example, I can do A + B. So all I'm declaring here is that I've defined a function that takes in A and B and then returns A + B. So if I then print, like I did before, add 1 and 2, it'll mean that A is equal to 1, B is equal to 2, and it'll return A + B. So if I run this, it's 3. 1 + 2 is 3. And if I do 2 here, it'll give 4. So this is how you declare a function, which is a unit of work, a unit that does something for you, and it avoids you having to repeat things. But this is how you do a function in Python. Now we're going to do a bit of a complicated function here in order to be used in the chatbot. So I'm going to write def, I'm going to write apply underscore settings, and I'm going to start with the user underscore API key. This is the API, oh, I spelled it wrong. This is the key, the API key, like I mentioned here, the password that the user has to bring so that we don't have to pay for things. And I'm then going to write chosen model because I actually want to give the user the choice to choose a model. I've selected this one by default, but I want the user to be able to choose what model they want to chat with. Next here, I'm going to write global. This is a way that I can make a variable, like these ones, available anywhere globally. I wouldn't worry too much about this, but this is something that we have to do here. So I'm going to copy paste this API key, so it's available in this function that I've declared. And I'm also going to copy paste model name. So this just means, hey, I have these variables and I want to make them available here. So I've created this function that takes these two arguments. I've declared these global variables so I can reuse them. And now I'm going to write API key. The API key here is empty, right? So imagine that I call this open router for using one of those AI models like we have here, and it takes an empty password. It's just going to say, hey, give me the password. So I'm instead going to do API key equals the user API key. So in a second, we'll be asking the user for their API key in the chatbot so that we use their password and their model. So we don't have to pay for it. They pay for anything they do. And next I'm going to write model name. And I've written this one as an example, but I want the user to choose what model they use. So I'm going to write model name equals chosen model or model name. And that's how what we're gonna do. So or is actually kind of interesting in Python. It means that it's gonna see if there's a chosen model by the user. And if there isn't, it's gonna just by default use the next value, which is model name. So that's it. We'll run this, and this is a function. This is how we're gonna let the user apply settings, meaning they're gonna apply their API key and they're gonna choose what model they want. Right now, I know this isn't very visual, but I promise that it's gonna be quite visual quite soon. So I'll show you that in a second. So that's how we did functions. Next, I'm going to be showing you a bit more complex of a function. So I showed you one that was very simple here with only 3 lines. Let's do the same thing, and we're gonna write def, which is for defining a function, and we're gonna write stream underscore chat underscore reply. So this is actually how we're going to get replies from the chatbot. We're gonna send in messages into the chatbot, and we're gonna stream them. A stream you can think of just like a river. So it means that as the chatbot is generating new words, we'll see them automatically stream on the screen. If you've used an AI chatbot before, you see that instead of waiting until the full reply comes in, it goes word by word, showing you how it progresses. And it feels really nice when that happens. So that's what we're gonna do here. We're going to stream the reply. So we're gonna write stream chat reply. And what this takes in is, in order to chat, you need to take a user message, right? So I'm gonna write user underscore message. And then apart from that, apart from a user message, the chatbot needs to know all the history of conversation you've had, right? Let's say that you've been chatting to this chatbot and you say, hey, my name is Nick. And then you type something else. And then let's say that you send a message to the chatbot and you say, hey, my name is Jeff. And then you write another message and you say, hey, what's my name? And it doesn't remember. So we want to keep the history of the chatbot. So I'm going to write conversation underscore history equals, and then I'm going to write blank, because at the very beginning, this is called an array. And so an array is just a blank list. So I'm going to write a blank list because at the very beginning, there is no conversation history. But as you go building this up, it's going to be using this conversation history. So that's what we've defined as our chat. And the very first thing we're going to do is we're not going to allow anyone without a API key. So anyone that doesn't have a password, we're not going to let in. So by doing that, I'm going to be teaching you an if or else statement. This is a conditional in Python. So an if statement means that you can start to do some type of logic. You say, if you have a password, then you can pass. You can go forward. If you don't have a password, then you can't go forward. So I'm going to write if not. And then I'm going to take this API key variable. If I say, if you don't have API key, so if you don't have this API key, then I'm going to write colon. And you see that in Python, we use this indentation, right? So we use this tab, or you can do 2 spaces. So here, if I do if not API key, if I want logic to happen when someone doesn't have an API key, all I do is I do tab, as I've done here, or 2 spaces, and then I write return. Just so return means that I'm returning something back. I don't want it to continue. And I say, please paste your open router API key. And that's what it's going to return. It's going to stop the whole function here, and it's not going to do anything else until that is resolved. So I've accidentally added something here. I'm just going to remove it. But there we go. That is the first part of our logic. We say, if you do not have a password, you cannot continue. Next is messages, right? A chatbot is all about messages. We're going to create a function, variable. So we started with variables here, right? These are like containers that we can store values in. And I'm going to start storing some messages. And I've told you about strings and numbers. But another type of value you can store in a variable in this container is a list. So I'm going to write a list. And a list is you write square brackets, and these are comma separated values. So I can write 1, 2, 3, and this is a list with 3 values. I can write hello, and I can write, and so it'll be a list with 3 values, but the first one is text. So this is actually really flexible. It means that you can start to write lists of things. And one type of value that you can write is actually curly braces. A curly brace means that it's a dictionary. So for example, if I replace all of this here and I do a dictionary, I can write, for example, my name, and you write colon is Jeff. And then you do comma, and you say my age is 23. And so that is how you start to advance. That you can have, for example, values that have labels. So it's not just text, it's not just lists, but you can actually have labels. And so all this to just show that you have different types of variables. So now I'm going to start off with just creating a list. So we followed that so far. And I'm going to write a couple of enters. And so everything I write into here is in this big list. And this is going to be a list of messages that I write. So for example, I'm going to do these curly braces, and each message is going to have a role. So like, who is speaking? Who said this message? And the first thing that we start with in a chatbot is a system message. A system message, this is by the way, not to do with Python, this is to do with AI chatbots. And the first thing that you have to declare is who is speaking. Is it the user or is it the chatbot? So when I write system, this means that the chatbot is speaking. And so I write role is system. And then what I can write is content. And so content like this means, what is the chatbot saying? So the first thing that we tell the chatbot is, you are a useful Python tutor. And so that is the first thing that I tell it. And if you are creating a different chatbot, I want you to edit this right now and choose whatever you want. You can say you're a useful DIY assistant, or you are a useful financial assistant, etc. So this is how you start a list of messages. And we're going to be making sure that the first one is a system message, which tells the chatbot, this will be invisible, but it will tell the chatbot what it should do. And you can elaborate here as much as you want in the instructions. So that's it. We've created a list of messages. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to write for message in. We're going to do 2 things, which we're going to write for past underscore user. And then we're going to write past underscore bot. And we're going to write here just past user message and underscore past bot message in, and then we're going to write conversation history. Then you're going to do a colon. And what I'm doing here is called a for loop. This means that what it does is it'll grab every message in conversation history and it will go through a loop going through each one. So in conversation history, we're going to have a user message, we're going to have a bot message. And what this does is it will go one by one through each of those. So what I can write here is if past, I'm just going to copy this. if there's a past user message, what I want you to do is go to this list, and I want you to add that user message to this list. So I'm going to grab these messages, and I'm going to write .append. Append means that I push a message onto this list. So I'm accumulating a list of messages. And I'm going to use this exact same format that I've used here. So I'm going to copy this over, and I'm going to write this over. But instead of the role being system, I'm going to write user, because this is what the user message wrote. And instead here of writing content, like you are a useful Python tutor, what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete all of this text. So it remains like this. Make sure that you've deleted it properly. And I'm just going to paste in this past user message, because what it means is that it's going to go through all of our conversational history, and in the right format, add the user message to this list, because I'm basically doing messages.add or .append, and I'm going to write that message. So there we go. That's how easy it was. But this conversation history is not just between the user. The chatbot is also giving back replies. So I'm now going to copy paste both of these lines like this, copy, and I'm going to paste it here. And instead of the user message, I'm going to copy it, but for the bot message. So I'm going to paste the bot message here. I'm going to paste the bot message here. And instead of user, I'm going to write assistant. And this is what the bot message looks like. So all I'm doing here is I'm going one by one through the conversation history. If there's a user message, I add it to the list. If there's a bot message, I add it to the list. So that's how easy it is to do this part. Cool. The last thing that I'm going to be doing around here is, just bear with me. This may not make much sense at the beginning, but in order to call this service Open Router that has all of these cool models that we want to use, we have to be using something called headers. And so I'm going to write headers, and I'm going to be using that dictionary format. So remember dictionary, you do a label and then a value. So for the label, I'm going to write authorization, and make sure to copy exactly what I'm writing here. I'm going to write F quote mark bearer. So this is, actually forget this, write bearer. So this is a text value. I'm going to then do space, and I'm going to write plus API key. So I'm going to copy this API key up here and write it here. All this will do is this is going to be the password or API key that we send Open Router here in order to say, hey, you give us permission to use one of those models. Now, don't forget to use a comma, and then we're going to go to the next line. So we've write authorization : bearer plus API key. Next, we're going to be writing content type like this, content with a capital type. This is just the type of content that we expect the Open Router to give us back. So I write content type, and then I write application /JSON, just like this. If you want to autocomplete what it's autocompleting here, you can press tab, by the way. And then the last thing here, I'm going to write accept. So what type of format do we accept back from this chatbot? And we write here text /event stream. And this means that we want the chatbot not to just wait to create everything. We want it to go generating words and sending us words on the fly. And the last thing I'm going to write here is body equals, and then you write these curly braces like this. This is the body of what we're going to send the chatbot, right? Think of the headers almost like the password and what we expect. And the body is like the main data that we're going to be sending. So what we're going to say is the model. We say, hey, the model that we want you to send is model name, right? And this model name was the model that we declared up here. But it can also be overwritten. And then we're going to write here messages. There's going to be a stream of messages that we're going to send the model. And messages is messages, just like that. And the last thing that we'll write is stream :true. And this means that we do want the messages to be streamed back and forth. So that is pretty much it for this section. As I mentioned, this is going to be a bit of a longer function. We've defined the function. We've said that if you don't have a password, you can't pass. We've put together all of the messages here, and just make sure, by the way, that all of it is properly indented. So here, for example, we're having the proper indentation, it seems, but make sure that that's all properly indented, which is important in Python. And the last thing that we're going to do here is we're actually going to send the message. We've kind of prepared the messages. We've prepared the format it's going to be sent. How are we actually going to send the messages? This might be a little bit complicated, so I just want you to follow along with me. But I'm going to write with requests.post API underscore URL, comma, headers equals headers. So this just means that those headers and the passwords that we sent are going to be the ones that were put up there. We're going to write JSON equals body. So this is the messages that we're sending it. And then we're going to write stream equals true and timeout equals 300. Then we're going to write as response. So what this is doing is it's requesting this URL. It's making a call to Open Router saying, hey, we want to access the models. The headers are here. So this is the password. The body is this. So these are the messages I want to send. And I want you to stream it. And I want you to give me that response and call it response. So what I'm going to just do here is I'm going to write a new variable called partial underscore text. And this is I'm going to write empty string here. So it's just going to be empty. This is the text that as the model goes generating, it's going to send me bit by bit. So I'm just going to call it partial. And what I want to write is for raw. So this is going to be the raw response, every single little letter that the model is sending as it goes. In response dot iter lines. So this just means it's iterating line by line to give me the response. And I'm going to write decode underscore Unicode is true. So just bear with me here, but this is going to be important so the formatting is right. And I write if not raw or not raw dot starts with data, just like this, continue. So this basically means, hey, if you're not sending me anything, just keep on going, keep continuing. And if it doesn't start with the required format, keep on going. This just means if it's giving me something empty, I want it to keep going. Then what I'm going to write is data. So I'm going to write it here. Data equals raw 5 colon like this dot strip. So dot strip, this just means I want to get something very specific from this data. I want you to just bear with me here because it's going to be exciting once we're able to put this all together. And you write if data equals square bracket done like this, colon, then you want to break. So basically we're saying, hey, if these, for all of these messages that are coming one by one into here, if there's nothing, continue. If it's done, then stop, meaning break, right? So it's just a loop just means it'll keep on going like this. And we want it to stop once it's done. Next, we're going to write if not data dot starts with, and you can see here, this curly brace like this, then we want it to continue. So basically what we're saying is that we want it to be in the correct format when it's sent. And what I'm going to write here lastly is chunk. So this is the chunk that's being sent equals JSON.loads. So this is a specific format, as I mentioned, that it's going to come with. So we want to convert the data into the right format. So this data that's being sent, we're converting to the JSON format. Delta equals, and we're just going to, just bear with me here, chunk.get choices. So this is all of the model choices. And we're going to write here 0 dot get delta. So that's all you want to write there. We're next going to write token. So this is a token is a specific kind of group of letters that the model is sending equals delta dot get content. So this is the exact letters that the model is sending one by one. And if you do if token like this, and then write partial text, so we're going to grab this partial text plus equals token, and then you write yield partial text. What this is doing is that it will go letter by letter pretty much. Think of token almost like a letter or a few letters. It'll go adding, as the model goes out, adding to this list of this string, this text. It'll go adding all of the response. So letter by letter, it'll be adding the response. And then yield means just give it to me as it goes. So keep on streaming it, keep on giving every letter to me. And that is basically how it works there. So that is pretty much all you have to write. I know this has been a longer function, but what we've done is we've ensured no one comes without an API key. We've declared the messages and the history of messages. We've declared what the messages we want to send in the model and the password with the API key. And here we've actually sent it and received it. We've received all of the text and the letters that the model is giving back. So if we run this, there we go. We got a green light here. And we're going to create our one of our last code blocks here. And as one of the last code blocks, we're actually going to be using Gradio. So if you remember back up here, we installed Gradio. And here we did Gradio as GR, meaning that I can write GR and use all of the Gradio stuff that I want. So if I write with gr.blocks, this is going to create a really nice template and UI. So we write with gr.blocks as demo. So we're going to create a demo. I'm going to write a title. So think of the website that we're building right now. So I'm going to write gr.markdown. And I'm going to write quotes here, which is a string. I'm going to do an hashtag, which means it's a header. Maybe I'll do an emoji here. So I'm just going to do snake, for example. Oh, it's typed in here accidentally. So I write snake and I write Kiki chatbot. Kiki AI chatbot. And what's quite cool here is if I then write a new line here and I write demo.launch. So we've declared this demo and I write share equals true. If I run this, it should be able to run. So here it's saying that GR is not defined. I believe if I run this, that should solve it. So we'll now run this again. And quite cool. Hey, we've got this URL. We have this thing showing here and it's loading and it says Kiki AI chatbot. So that is the start of the website that we're building. If I click here, you can actually see live this website. And this is what we're going to be building on top of. We have all the functionality almost ready and it's going to be really exciting. But you can rename this to whatever you want. And this URL means anyone can access it publicly. Just note that it says this link expires in 72 hours. So you have to pay for Gradio if you want it for more than 72 hours. But for a Python project, this is awesome. So that's what I've written here. This is the title. And if I want to change the title, I can change this. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write with gr.row like this, colon. I'm going to write API underscore key underscore box. So I'm going to create a box for the API key and I'll write gr.textbox. This is how I create a text box. I'll create a little bit of space here. I'm going to write label equals, and I'm going to just put a emoji here with a key, but you can write whatever you want. You can just do text, by the way. I'm going to write API key. So this is the key that the user has to get from OpenRouter if they want to use our chatbot. We're not going to pay for anybody using our stuff. Everyone brings their own password. I'm going to write placeholder equals paste OpenRouter API key here. And then I'm going to write one more value, which is type password. So because this is a password, it's going to keep it secure. So all I've done here is I've created a new row in this website that you'll see. And you can basically declare your API key. So if I run this, you'll see this in a second, but I think it's because I wrote the B capital here. So if I run this, It'll load in a second, but you should be able to see a text box. So this is an API key text box that we've declared here. Now, the next thing that we're going to write is model underscore box. So this is the dropdown where someone can pick the model they use. So I'll do gr.dropdown like this. I'll press enter and I'll write label equals, and I'm going to just pick here a robot emoji, and I'll write model. I'll then do comma, and we'll do choices. So what models can someone choose? Remember that a square bracket was choices, was a list. So I'm going to be basically picking different models that I want the user to be able to choose. I'll go up and I'll pick this model that I already did before, like here, and put it here. So that's going to be one of the models that people can choose, and it's a free one. But if you go to Open Router, you can basically pick any model here. I priced it low to high, and I like the Mistral model, so I'll be using one of those. But you can see here that there's several that say free. So I'm going to be choosing Mistral Small 3.2, and I'm going to be choosing a couple other models that I find quite cool. So I'll choose this one as well, DevStral. So I'll choose, I'll put it into quotes, but you can basically start picking any models that you want here, and you can start adding various into a list so the user can choose the model that they want, which is pretty neat. And then all I'm going to write is that value equals model name. Okay, cool. And the last thing I'm going to write here is apply underscore button. So this is going to be the button that submits this form when someone types in the API key and selects their model, and you write apply button equals gr.button apply. Okay, so the last thing I'll do here is I will make sure that I don't have duplicates here. I just have Mistral Small, I have DevStral Free here, and the last thing I'm going to write here is interactive is true. And this will make it so that you can interact with this dropdown as well. And so when we click the apply button, you'll be able to see it. So if I now click enter or run, I'll be able to see here exactly what we've just built here, which is someone creates an API key. You have a drop down here to pick what model you want, and then you can apply. And so, for example, I'll use my API key here. And if you type it in here and then press paste, then you can be able to see it. So I'll go and do that. And if I write here, I can press apply and it will confirm it. Cool. So now we're going to write the last parts here of the code. And if I go here and I press enter, I'm going to write status. So the status is going to be gr.markdown. And I'm going to write paste your API key, then click apply. So that's the status part that I wrote, and I write apply. So what happens when you click the button? So you write apply underscore button dot click. So when you click it, what happens? You do apply settings. So now it's when we start connecting all of our functionality. So we write this apply settings, what it did is it takes the API key and the model that the person chose. So now you're probably putting things together. And then what we do is we actually send those things over. So we do square brackets and we write the API key box, which is the answer of the API key the person gave, and then the model they gave, and then we return the status here. So that is how we start to build this up. And the only other things I'm going to write is gr.markdown. And I'm going to write here, ask me anything for the chatbot. And lastly, I'm going to write gr.chat interface. So it's going to do a whole chat interface for us. We're then going to give it the stream reply function that we did here. So if we do, for example, here, right here, stream reply. You write fn equals stream reply, then comma, then we do dot q, like this. Guys, hey guys, so Nick from the future, I got the error. So here in authorization, if you put a Z instead of an S, it should all work. And so again, you'll just have to run this cell again. And if we go down here to the bottom, you can run all of this code that we've created here, and it should spin it up here. So you can either use it here, or I'm gonna use this link that will last for 72 hours. You go to this link now. This will be live for 72 hours. And again, you can upgrade and everything. But if you go to Open Router and you ask anyone that you give this link to go to Open Router to get their own API key, and these are the free models, so it should be pretty much fine. But I'll skip this part so you don't see my API key. And you can click apply, you can select a model, and you can say something like, hi there. And it'll type out the full response for you here. If you say, what are variables in Python, it should be able to respond as well. Also giving you a nice little response here. So there we go. You've created your own AI chatbot. You can allow users to select a model and basically power it for free if you choose the right models. So I hope you found this helpful. This has been a great first Python tutorial, and for the year, probably one of the most impactful projects that you can do. You can even use this URL to show it out. And if I had more time, what I would do if I were you is change this to be themed to whatever you want. You can go here and you can change the type of chatbot it is and write a much more descriptive description of what it should be. You can go here to Gradio and change the exact title that you use here for the chatbot. And I would Google and maybe use your AI chatbot to understand how Gradio works a little bit better, so you can apply your own styling here so it looks exactly like you want it. So hopefully you found this tutorial useful. This was a tutorial of creating your own AI chatbot for the first time in Python. And please, I spend a lot of time making these videos, so it'd be really helpful if you can drop a comment and subscribe. It'd really mean a lot for the channel and the videos that I'm making. Please let me know down in the comments what you'd like to see next, and have a good rest of the day. Thank you.